Welcome to the Andrea Engstrom Show. I'm passionate about helping you break through to your next level of abundance, success, and freedom so that you can create the life you desire and inspire others to do the same. I'm your host, Andrea Engstrom, and on today's show, we're going to talk about overcoming imposter syndrome. So I saw this great TikTok the other day from Coach Ratner from the Living in Clarity podcast, and he shared the 6 symptoms to low self-esteem. And it was things that I hear so frequently from women in my coaching groups. And I wanted to share these with you and then talk about what in the heck are we going to do about this. So if you can relate to any of these ideas, any of these things that I'm sharing with you, this episode is for you. So the 6 symptoms of low self-esteem are: number 1, imposter syndrome; number 2, people pleasing; number 3, procrastination or perfectionism; number 4, comparing yourself to others; number 5, avoiding social interaction; and number 6, hypersensitivity. So if any of those resonate with you and you're like, oh, shoot, that's me, then today is for you. The one I really want to dig on today is one that I hear repeatedly from women that are in my coaching groups and organizations that I belong to. And they say, I'm starting this new business, or I'm trying to, take my business next level. And I feel this overwhelming sense of imposter syndrome. Like there's this voice in my head going, who do you think you are to introduce yourself like that? And I think a lot of us, when we start something new, we will have feelings about like, I'm not good enough, or, I'm not as good as somebody else who's already been doing this a long time. How do I get to introduce myself as, for example, as a real estate investor when I've never even done a deal? And so I talk to lots of women that are like, I've been a nurse for 20 years and I'm trying to start this new business. And the only thing in my head is like, I'm just a nurse, or I'm just a teacher, or something like that. And so imposter syndrome is real for so many of us. And I think it can be one of the things that holds us back if we don't know what to do about it. So when you start to feel those feelings of, it's like I'm excited about what I want to do, but I don't feel ready yet. I feel like I have to already have the success if I'm going to try to do something successful. And if we say that out loud, it doesn't pass the out loud test, right? It's kind of crazy talk. It's like, well, until I'm successful, then I can't pursue success. And that doesn't make any sense because we all start somewhere. We all start somewhere. But there's a couple of things that I want to share with you that I think can be really helpful in navigating that mindset. The first one that I want to share with you is called what I call borrowing confidence. Borrowing confidence means that when you are starting something new, it's really helpful to create a team of people around you, or to join a group, or to be a part of something that's bigger than yourself, of other people who are also doing the thing that you're doing. And I found the ability to do this really early in my journey as a real estate investor because I joined the Women's Real Estate Investors Network, where I was learning how to become a real estate investor. And so when I would introduce myself, I would say something like this. When I was talking to people like out in my community who I thought could potentially help me or send me a referral or something like that, I would say something like this. I'm part of a national women's group of real estate investors, and we buy properties for cash. And we're looking for a fix and flip in this area. And so if you know anyone that needs to sell their house quickly, that's a great referral for me. Right. And so do you see what I did there? Instead of saying, I've never done a deal before and I'm looking for my first deal, I said, I'm part of this group and here's what we do. The other thing is really helpful is that then when I would go and talk to homeowners and try to get something under contract, I would talk about my partners. I would talk about my partners, and not just my husband that was doing the business with me as we were getting started, but I would refer to contractors as my partners. I would refer to the title company as my partners. My realtor was one of my partners because I was creating this team of people, because none of us can do business all by ourselves. There's always people that we need, whether they're a bookkeeper or an advisor or a CPA, a coach, people that are around you that are helping you know exactly what to do next. And so when we're able to communicate as if we are part of something bigger, for me, that really helped me to step into that level of confidence to introduce myself as a real estate investor. And so for you, if you are struggling feeling like you're all by yourself in your business and try to make this thing work, to be able to borrow confidence from a group or from a network you belong to, or maybe you're getting coached and there's other people that are in that group that you can reach out to know what to do next, that's a really helpful step. The other thing that allows you to do is, I think a lot of us feel like we have to have all the answers before we get started, before we start having conversations about it. And so sometimes we'll spend months and months learning and trying to make sure we know all the things that there are to know about the thing. But here's the truth. We don't have to have all the answers before we get started. We just have to know who we would reach out to for the next step. So in my coaching group yesterday, I was talking to a group of women that are like, I find myself hesitating on taking action. And that falls under one of those symptoms of low self-esteem also, which is like procrastination or perfectionism, right? Where we're hesitating on taking an action because we're actually afraid, like, if I go ask them for this, if I go ask for the deal, what if they say yes? What if they say yes? And then I have to show up and do the next thing. I have to figure out my next steps. And I don't really always know my next steps. But here's what you need to know is just who you would call next. And so, for example, in my real estate, when I would go and talk to a homeowner to get something under contract, I didn't have to know all of the next steps. All I would say is, our next step is I'm going to take this to the title company. When it's under contract, I'm going to take this to the title company, and they're going to tell us what we need to do next, because it was just a for sale by owner situation. And so I didn't have to tell them all the details, and borrowing the confidence that I would be working with someone who is going to guide us in our next steps, who would be an attorney involved and make it super legit. That was actually more confidence building for them and for me than for me to say, here's all of the next steps and everything that's going to happen, because they didn't actually want to know all of the things that happen behind the scenes in the deal. They just needed to know that I was going to be working with the right people to be able to close the thing and make it happen. And so I was borrowing confidence from the professionals that I was surrounding myself with, because that's really the most important part, is that you don't have to know all the answers. You just have to know who you're going to reach out to in order to make it happen. And so it's this principle of who, not how. You don't have to know how it all works. You just need to know who you need to work with in order to make it happen. Right. And so this is a really important principle when it comes to gathering your confidence and overcoming imposter syndrome, is let yourself off the hook for having to have all the answers, because in reality, even really experienced professionals don't have all the answers in every single situation, but they know who they would call if they don't have the answers. And I think when we show up pretending like we have all the answers, that's when we can make mistakes, and that's when we will actually take away confidence, is if we pretend like we know what we're talking about and then something doesn't happen the way that we said that it would because we didn't actually have all of the answers. It's much, much better to enter that situation with humility and say, you know what? I don't know the answer to that question, but I have a partner I'm going to reach out to, and they can walk us through that next step. Right. Or to just be able to say, here's our next step. And like this professional that we are going to work with is going to take it from there. And the other thing that this does that I think is really positive is that if something happens in that deal and you have to go back and renegotiate, you can point to someone that you had to reach out to who is the professional giving that advice in that situation. And you can still be the person in the trenches with the homeowner that you're doing the deal with, and be saying, you know what, the contractor said this. And so we had talked about, we thought that the foundation repairs would cost $8,000, but I got this advice and this bid from this contractor, and they said it's going to be $25,000. And so we're going to have to, what are we going to do here? What are we going to do? And it puts you in the we situation with the person that you're doing the deal with. And instead of it's you against them, it's like, we're in this together and the professionals say this, so what are we going to do as a next step? And so I like that as an opportunity to keep you in collaboration and in problem solving mode with the person that you're doing a deal with, as opposed to I'm in this place and you're in this place, and we've got to figure out how we're going to come together because we're on opposite ends of the spectrum. It's like, they said this, what are we going to do? Right? And so I just want to encourage you today, if you find yourself hesitating, if you find yourself asking yourself this little question, who am I trying to be? I don't even have a deal yet. I'm trying to show up and be this next level person, and I don't feel like her. Then there's things that you can do. And this dynamic, this thing that happens, y'all know I'm a big fan of the book, The Big Leap by Gay Hendricks. And what is happening inside us when we start to feel that imposter syndrome, or we start to feel that hesitation happening? He describes it, he calls it an upper limit problem. So for most of us, we have spent the majority of our lives comfortable in a certain pattern, whether it's we are comfortable in the job that we've been in the roles that we've been in. Some of us are actually comfortable in struggle because that's what we know. We've been in struggle financially for years. We've been in struggle with our relationships for years. We've been in struggle with, an inner dissonance where we know what we really should be doing, but we're not doing it yet. So when we start to move into this next level, action taking, trying to create the success that we want, maybe we have this clear vision for the future, but our identity hasn't shifted enough to catch up with it, then we will find ourselves pulling back and hesitating because we're actually more comfortable being uncomfortable in the misery that we were formerly in, or in, we've called this suffering and comfort, because it's created these grooves in our brain that we're like, no, I'm actually pretty comfortable being broke, or being in financial struggle, or just having the job that I've had for years and years. And so this is what Gay Hendricks says in The Big Leap. He says that when you surpass your upper limit thermostat setting, a little voice admonishes you from deep within your mind, saying, you should not be this happy or rich or creative because you are fundamentally flawed. This thought creates cognitive dissonance, the mind rattle that occurs when you try to hold two opposing thoughts at the same time. So the concept is like, given that I am fundamentally flawed or wrong or bad or not good enough, how can I possibly be rich or happy or creative? So the cognitive dissonance must be resolved in one of two ways: by returning to your previous thermostat setting, which is that those deep grooves in our brain where we're comfortable being what we've always been, being broke or unhappy or whatever it is, or by letting go of the old limiting belief, which allows you to stabilize at a new, higher level. So it's going back to this thermostat setting concept that we hear from Gay Hendricks, that we hear from Ed Milet in his book, The Power of One More. We have to do things to actually crank up our thermostat setting and set a new normal for ourselves, which allows us to step into that next level identity and stop feeling that imposter syndrome, because our new identity is such that we can take those actions, that we can be her, we can show up and do the thing, because we are shifting our identity. And so that's the other strategy I want to share with you today, is how we can overcome imposter syndrome by actually shifting our identity to becoming who we need to be to show up as the person that we really want to be. So we can borrow confidence from others, or we can actually, step up our identity so that who we are who we are trying to show up as is who we really believe that we are. Isn't that powerful? Who we really believe that we are in our identity shift that is happening. And so one of the things in Ed Milet's book, The Power of One More, that he says is a great way to shift your identity, to level up your thermostat, to crank that up, is to surround yourself with high quality people. So it goes right back to that idea of borrowing confidence. It comes back to who we surround ourselves with is also what can give us confidence, and it elevates who we are. And so as you're making decisions about how you spend your time and who you spend your time with, those things often have to shift when we are trying to do something next level in our life. Because if the people that we're surrounding ourselves with are just the people that know us as who we used to be, they are comfortable with our previous identity. They are comfortable in our old patterns that we've had for so long. And so the imposter syndrome sometimes is not just coming from within us, it's coming from the messages that we're hearing from other people that we may be making feel a little uncomfortable with what we are doing with our life, with where we are headed. And so we have to be really, really picky as we are doing a next level, like level up in our life. We have to be picky about who we surround ourselves with. And it's not that you have to cut people out from your old life or from where you're currently at, but you have to intentionally add people to your life who are going to elevate you. And so we look around ourselves and say, who do I want to be like? Who already has that level of identity that I want to start to match? And where can I find those people? And for most of us, if you look around your own community, you may not find those people. You may be that the level of people that you want to surround yourself with are not already in your immediate circle of influence. And so this is why it's so important to join groups, to join networks, to join coaching programs where you can meet other people who are elevating themselves in the ways that are important to you. They're growing themselves in the areas that you want to be better in. And so when you can find those groups of people and join them, and start to intentionally spend quality time with those types of individuals, then it helps you to overcome that imposter syndrome, because there's this thing that happens in our brain also that says, if she can do it, I can do it. And that's not about comparing yourselves to others. It's about being inspired by people who are doing next level things. Be inspired by people who are doing next level things. And if you look around you and there is no one who is doing next level things who you are inspired by, then that means that you need to broaden your circle. You need to expand your circle and intentionally develop relationships. And so one of the ways that we can do that, there's groups that you can join online. I think it has grown exponentially, especially during the pandemic when we couldn't network in person. We have to join groups that are meeting virtually. But the beautiful thing that has done is it has opened up the world in terms of, like, there's no longer borders or parameters around who you have an opportunity to meet. You can find a group of people online who are moving in the direction that you want to be moving and elevating themselves and doing amazing things, and figure out how to join them and then develop relationships with people inside those groups. And one of the things that I like to do when I join a group where I know it has the potential to elevate me is that I will reach out to individuals in that group, people who I see doing bold things, who are having the kind of success that I want to have, or are encouraging other people. That's the kind of people that I want to surround myself with. And so I like to take it from just being a bigger group, and just being like a fly on the wall, right? In a situation like that, to creating personal relationships with those individuals that will be meaningful to me. And so none of that happens though unless you take action, unless you reach out. And so what I would like to do is send a direct message to those people and say, "Hey, can we meet? Can we get together and have a conversation? I'm really inspired by that thing that you said in that group," or let them know why you admire them, and just tell them like, "Hey, I want to hear about your goals. I want to learn more about what you're doing and see if there's anything that I can do to be of service to you, or that if I can encourage you or make connections for you in some way. I'm just such a fan of what you're doing. Could we have a 20-minute Zoom?" Right? Could we just have a quick phone call? And not everyone that you reach out to is gonna have time or say yes, because if you're reaching out to really high quality people, sometimes they are getting bombarded by those kinds of messages. But I want to encourage you to keep trying, reach out to another person. It might take a dozen or more people for you to reach out to, that then to get one to respond and say, "Yeah, let's have a conversation." But it's so worth the effort, because what that can turn into is a number of really beautiful things. A number of amazing things can happen in your life. And for me, when I joined the Women's Real Estate Investors Network that I mentioned earlier, some of the people that I reached out to and had those kind of conversations with, and we talked about, okay, well, what are your goals, and why is that important to you, and how can I help you? Is there any connections I can make? And those sort of conversations, some of those people became my true partners in my business, where we're actually doing deals together, and they're financial partners, and at a next level we are doing amazing things together. And it all started because we reached out, because we took it to a one-to-one conversation. And so just sitting at home and scrolling through and being passive and not participating at a high level won't create the partnerships, and won't create that level of relationships and the confidence of having those relationships that you want to see happen in your business. And so you've got to be bold and reach out, and keep reaching out until you find the right people that you are surrounding yourself with. So one of the things that I did when I was part of a mentorship and it was ending, that was one of the most powerful things in my life as I was growing my real estate business, was I looked around and said, who is being bold and encouraging other people to be bold? That's who I want to continue in relationship with. And I reached out to 24 women and invited them to be part of a mastermind group that I was starting. And as part of that group, the relationship that we have developed over the course of the last couple of years has led to so many beautiful things happening in their lives and in my life. It allowed people to stay motivated and keep going when things got really hard. It gave us who exactly we would reach out to run a problem by and be able to brainstorm solutions together. I call it the collective genius. And so I'm really excited, because now in my coaching organization, Bold Mastermind, I've created mastermind groups that other people can be a part of, because I saw so much power and so many beautiful things happening in that group that I had created, that now I'm like, how do I bring that to other people? How do I duplicate that? And be able to help more people to find their tribe of other women that they can link arms with and borrow confidence from, and be a group and a unit that does things together and not feel alone in their business. Because I think when we are trying to grow our business, when we are trying to next level our business, it can be a very lonely endeavor. And I think that's where those feelings of self-doubt, those feelings of like, who am I, start to creep in, is when we are trying to do things all alone and we don't have that support system around us. And I'm not just talking about a support of where you log on and listen in on a call, or you're passively perusing other people's posts in a group. I'm talking about people who know your name and want to know how you're doing, and are asking you about your goals and what's important to you. And that when you have when you're stuck in some way, that they are able to bring that collective genius of the group to your aid to say, let's solve this problem together. That's what I want for each of you to have an opportunity to be a part of. And so I am so excited that my groups of women that are coming together are growing and they're finding this sense of community. And if that's something that you feel like you would like to be a part of, I just want to invite you to join me for a workshop that I have coming up called The 3 Secrets to Double Your Income: Clarity, Confidence, and Unlimited Referrals. We talk about how to create the clarity that you want in your life, the confidence you need to move forward with power and take action, and how to make connections that are life changing in your business. And so, when you join that workshop, at the end of it, I share with you an opportunity on how you can join one of my groups. And so I love for you to have some really good information going into that to understand how I provide value and what you would learn as being part of one of my groups. But then you actually have an opportunity to see what it looks like to join one of my programs. So I want to invite you to register for that workshop. You can just go to andreaengstrom.com if you want to register for that. Well, here is my challenge for you today. My challenge to you is to reach out to someone in a group that you belong to and ask if they would be willing to meet to get to know each other better. Let them know what you admire about them and what you would like to hear about their goals and how you can support them in any way. And if they don't respond, they may not have seen your message. Just keep moving, find another person and do the same thing and reach out. But begin to develop your own circle of influence, that power team, that network that you can borrow confidence from, that you know who you would call when you don't know what to do in a certain situation. Reach out to other people. And then the other thing I want to invite you to do is if something on the show resonated with you today, would you just let me know by giving me a review on the podcast? Tell me how many stars I deserve. And if you're a woman entrepreneur and you are looking for a home, a great place to join, to be a part of something bigger than yourself with other women who are linking arms and moving in the same direction, you can join my Facebook group. It's called Bold Women in Business Sisterhood, where I share more strategies for clarity, confidence, and making powerful connections so that you can build the business and the life that you deserve. All right, till next time, I'm Andrea Engstrom, encouraging you to take action on your dreams. You are the one who makes your dreams come true. Show up to your life with power and authenticity. Be bold, be tenacious, and make it happen.